Hmm. Danjo. My name is Steven Fernandez. I am the Nataan Punsan De of the Lapon Nation of Texas. I am also a father of four, and I am an education advocate for Judson Independent School District and also their chairman for their Indian Parent Advisory Committee. I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit. Excuse me, I'm just going to go ahead and put this a little more where I can get comfortable. I wanted to talk about some things that were said on some videos and also on a Facebook page owned by a young man named Tletl. And I have nothing against this young man. I think that, he has good potential, but there's a lot of anger and a lot of misinformation, a lot of distortions, a lot of non-credible information being put out there by this young man. And let me just kind of brief over why I'm making this video. Well, this young man has a Facebook page named Ethnic Studies. And the reason for this page that he created was to educate others about the Native issues and about his feelings on those particular subjects. Well, he posted a few things, and of course, there were some things that were questionable. So I commented and tried to help, educate him a bit on what the correct views were, not the distorted views that were being presented. And I guess he got offended and decided that I was being disrespectful to him, even though it was written respectfully, and it was just written in a way to where he could get the information and try to correct it. Uh, he proceeded to block me, and doesn't hurt my feelings any. Not the first time I've been blocked from a site, but this just goes to show the prevalent attitude that, when one is seeking knowledge and you shut out those who have maybe just a little more knowledge than you, then it doesn't make you a very credible knowledge base. But I wanted to go ahead and highlight some of the things he talked about in some of his videos. He had two particular videos. One was about Native Americans, are they extinct, and the other one was about education. So I want to kind of highlight on those. Um, Definitely want to start off by highlighting on the education. And I want to kind of give you some background on education. Uh, the way that this young man presents it, that education is basically not there to really educate you on your peoples, your culture, and like that. And that's true. That's not what it is, and it's not going to do that. He also said that basically it's just for you to learn arithmetic, how to read, how science, history, and all these other subjects. And education is not made so you can learn all these things. It is to make you into a consumer. It's to make you into a worker. Basically, the industrial age came about, and they needed workers. And unfortunately, during that industrial age, came about the government school. The little red schoolhouse and like that. I mean, we all seen Little House on the Prairie. We've seen different things. And to be quite honest, education really started back in the Mediterranean area with the Roman Greco empires, which basically had schools for these philosophers and architects and like that. And these were expensive schools, so you had to be affluent to be part of these schools. Now, after a while, when the Protestant movement came around, they decided to teach the common man about the Bible, and they had to do this in a school setting. So that's when the parochial schools came about. So they started teaching ecclesiastical law, ecclesiastical ideals in these schools, and that was brought along to America, to the continent that they call America now, which is a misnomer. It's not that it's mistakenly called America. That's what they decided to call it after John Emmerich, who was the paymaster for the British Empire. But, they brought it here to this continent and started educating their people on doing things in an ecclesiastical way. Now, after a while, when the industrial revolution came, basically they had to change the way that schools were being run and how they were teaching certain subjects. So that's how the government school came about. But the modern model for what the public school system is now didn't come from that particular set of circumstances. It actually came about from us, the indigenous peoples, from the what they call the Indian schools, the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. They were made to teach Native Americans a trade, basically make them part of society and make them productive. And it's the same with the public school system. That's what they're set up to do, is to make you a, give you a trade, make you a integral part of society, a contributing member, and that way you can spend money, buy products, so on and so forth. This is the concept. And this has been a model that's been used ever since. It hasn't changed. But anyways, we want to go kind of a bit more into the education. One of the points he made is that white men, or as he put it, white people, are the ones that primarily teach the education. And that they're going to teach us their ideologies, their history, so on and so forth. And I have to say, it's not really, I wouldn't call it white. I would call it Eurocentric education, because the fact is that it's based upon philosophies of the Roman Greco empires. It's based off of other empires that were around in the European Union at that particular point. Well, it wasn't a union then, but I just kind of conglomerated them all together. But other empires that were in that particular continent. And it's just something that we have to deal with. But anyways, you're talking about how, basically they're teaching us history. Well, with the victors go the spoils. That's an old saying. And history is written by those who are the victors of the war. To say that, well, they're going to teach our history, well, they're going to teach a version of history, because any country, you can go look in a country like Germany, you can go look in a country like Russia, every historical book is going to put them into a good light. It's not going to highlight their evils that they've done, what they've done to their people, because they want to put a positive spin on everything that they've done. It's like, look at our accomplishments. Look at what we've done as a country. That's what they're really trying to do. It's a sense of indoctrinating you into patriotism. It's indoctrinating you into basically being obedient to your government. So they're not going to teach you about indigenous histories. They're not going to teach you about other people's histories, because that's just not something that they feel you really need to know. And really, it's up to us as individual nations, indigenous nations that is, to teach our histories to our children. We cannot leave that up to the government. The government is not responsible for teaching indigenous histories. Back in the day, with early education, it was the grandparents who taught the indigenous children. And the indigenous children would learn their culture, their traditional ways, their spiritual practices, their ceremonies, all from the grandparents. And this was done through a matrilineal society. The problem is we live in a patrilineal society. And if you don't know what matrilineal and patrilineal is, I'm going to give you the definitions. A patrilineal society is a man-run society. That means the man rules without question, then the women are subjugated to being a subordinate. A matrilineal society is a balance between male and female, and the female predominantly have influence into the affairs of how things are done. So it's a balance, and that's the way the matrilineal societies were. A lot of nations were matrilineal. I've been told that there were a few patrilineal societies. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I'm not going to say that's based in fact, but if somebody has the evidence of that, I mean, by all means, post it onto the comments of this video. But anyways, that's the whole thing. We live in a patrilineal society, and it's patrilineal idealism, so that's not going to change. They're going to teach their Eurocentric histories, and there's not much we can do about it, and they're not responsible for doing this for us. Also, too, he was talking about stereotypes, and that kind of goes along with the education, too. A lot of our educational things that are being taught about natives and about how natives were and how our societies were, how we lived, how we did things. Yes, I have to agree that Euro-American society did start that particular trend, because that they would write stories, especially in these newspapers, how certain nations were on the warpath. I mean, these were things that were very exaggerated as far as stories about the indigenous cultures here on this continent, and then it would just be blown out of proportion. So it'd be these wild tall tales. Also, I have to agree that Buffalo Bill's Wild West show did nothing for us. Yes, it is the modern day, or not the modern day, but it is the pattern for the modern day powwow, but it did more harm than it did good, because then that's what people saw as being what a true image was of a indigenous person. But what really set us back over hundreds of years was a man named John Ford. This man was a total idiot. This man was a director and a filmmaker in Hollywood. And if you've seen any of John Ford's films, this man took every native regalia he could possibly find and just threw it all together, and this was the amalgamated image of what Native Americans were supposed to be, or the American Indian of the West. So for John Ford and the beat, the dum 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 beat, thank John Ford for that. Because without him, we wouldn't have the modern stereotypes that we do today. So kudos to you, you big idiot. But anyways, this led to stereotyping, and there was a comment too that he made on one of his videos, talking about when he went to a museum that all our stuff's in museums like that. Well, of course, they're gonna put us into an historical mindset, because out of sight, out of mind. That's what the whole mentality is with the Euro-American way of thinking and the patrilineal way of thinking. You get anything that's matrilineal out of the way and you make it invisible. That's why we're invisible people. But anyways, he's saying that he went to the museum. These two ladies were gawking at this mannequin and thinking, "What a fine specimen! Look at the regalia. Oh, it's so nice." And they proceeded to walk past him. Then he felt like he was unimportant, because, like, hey, you're looking at a native. But the thing is, most people who are native don't look native. Okay, a lot of them get mistaken for being Hispanic or Mexican, whichever. I don't like either one of the terms, because they're incorrect. A lot of them get mistaken for being Asian. A lot of them get mistaken for being white, even though they're light-skinned. But see, the thing is about that is your look does not make you native. Knowing about your family and like that, yes, that makes you somewhat native. But what really makes you native is three things. And three things that is number one, walking your talk. Natives never, ever say things just for the sake of saying them, or go around ranting and raving about things. Natives get things done. They're not about, sitting around, posting blogs, posting videos, Well, I'm here posting a video now, but I can honestly tell you, you can look at my Facebook page, you can look at my page for the Kunitsa. We do things, and we walk our talk. I can give you an example here. Recently, with the Department of Homeland Security, the whole border wall, that's been a big issue. And we had a local Lapon elder of the Loiza Tamez who was fighting DHS and the border wall. Well, they proceeded to go ahead and take some of our land, build this wall, and we took action as the Lapon people. We went down there to El Calaboz. We saw the wall firsthand. We heard the stories. We, caught up on how the process worked. We talked with the elder Tamez, her family. We've talked to people out there in the community. We did something, and that was not just the Lapons. That was several nations out there doing something about this situation, about our brothers to the south being criminalized for just doing, their normal day-to-day activities of migrating back and forth on their, ancestral lands. But anyways, I've done several other things too that you can see. I just don't, speak out just with no purpose. And that's something that we have to mind. When we're just talking talk, it doesn't really just be talk. Let there be action behind it. And there are very good blogs of people who are doing things for their people. Because that's the thing. Our actions need to help our people to move forward. Not to basically just educate other natives. I'm not here to educate anybody else but myself, my family, and my own people, the Kunitsa. I don't speak for any other nation. I don't speak for any other people other than my own band. So that's the thing. But some good blogs to go on to besides ethnic studies, I would look at the United Urban Warrior Society, and that's a good website to look at. People doing something for the community, trying to do good things for their community. The Lapon Apache Women's Defense, or Law Defense, that's a good blog to go on to. That's run by my cousin, Margot Camez, who, a great advocate for our people, and she does a lot of things for us, and she goes to the UN, and she talks with them. So you always got to walk your talk. You just can't be, speaking, in anger. There's got to be a purpose behind it. So also, too, the second thing is basically practicing your traditional ways. And what I mean by traditional ways, what identifies you as indigenous is that you're practicing your spiritual ceremonies, your spiritual practices, you're practicing the traditional ways of doing things that your elders have taught you. And to say that, oh well, a lot of people don't know, their own practices like that, there are elders out there, and you need to seek them out. Whether it's at a powwow, whether it's at a ceremony, whether it's at, an I don't know more event, or whether it's at a protest, you seek elders out, and they will help you. They will guide you. If they're not the elder for you, they will guide you to an elder that can help you. But you have to practice your people's traditions. This identifies you as being native. We can say we're native, but if we are not following the old ways and adapting them to modern society that we live in, then we are not being truly a native nation. That's what and the third thing is basically that identifies us as native is that we're not stereotyping ourselves. And what I mean by stereotyping ourselves is wearing regalia. And he touched on that about, I see people wearing feathers like that. And you got white people saying, well, I'm part Cherokee like that. And then, look, I'm trying to prove that because I'm wearing feathers in my hair, I'm wearing regalia. Well, when we're doing that, we're not really trying to prove who we are. We're trying to connect to something. And that's the thing. They're trying to connect to a spirit that's not theirs to connect to. And all you can do really is pray for them, And who knows, they might be who they say they are, and they might not be. One thing is, I can say that I am who I am, even though that I was forced to have a Spanish last name attached to me. And that happened a lot, in the Southwest. When the Spanish came, they forced, Spanish last names on us. Up there in the Northwest, they forced French names on them. Towards the East, they forced English names on them. So, that was just prevalent. That's part of the colonialistic idealism. That was part of Manifest Destiny, part of, the papal bull of, the Roman Catholic Church. But these are just, things that help, add fuel to the fire when we dress up for every little thing in regalia or with feathers or wearing, Indian jewelry. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong with wearing that kind of stuff. But the thing is, there's a time and place for it. And we need to adapt to the modern society. And I'm not saying adapt to modern society by saying assimilate. I'm saying adapt to where, we are not trying to basically bring attention to ourselves. And that's the thing. I know there's a lot of people out there, Navajos and Dakota nations out there. They wear, the sneakers, blue jeans, skater shoes. Some of them wear Western wear, the Western shirt, jeans, boots, Stetson hat. It doesn't really matter what you're dressed in, as long as you're comfortable. And as long as, it's not anything that's going to make us stand out. We don't need to be putting feathers on our modern day shirts. Like, we don't need to have, even though we have all these novelty tees out there for natives, and, some of them are funny. I gotta agree. Some of them are pretty humorous. But to dress up every day for regalia, for little bitty things, we really need to curb that as, indigenous peoples. But also, too, we have to look at the way we dress as well, because people do judge us on the way that we look. Just to kind of point out, if you're wearing baggy pants down to your knees, you're wearing what they call, basically the thug look, or, you got the punk thing going on, people are going to get the wrong idea of who you are. They're not going to see you as being indigenous. They're going to see you as being, oh, that's a punk. Oh, that's a goth. Oh, that's a thug there, that's a gangster. You got to be aware of how you look to people in this society. And you might be saying, well, I don't care how I look to society like that. I'm going to wear what I want to wear. Well, when people don't see you as being indigenous, then there shouldn't be a complaint. That's just plain and simple, because people are people. They're human beings, and they're going to judge. And unfortunately, that happens. Even in the Native community, we judge. Because we see somebody with a Hispanic last name, we automatically assume they're Mexican. But, that person could be, Lapon Apache, could be Mescalero Apache, could be, Southern Cheyenne, they could be Ponca, they could be Lakota. We don't know. But, that's how we as human beings are. We have that failing of judging others. It's just one of those things. But going on with some of the subjects, I'm going to get off that. Those are some things that will identify you as being, native or indigenous. But indigenous people being looked at as foreigners was another thing that was touched upon. And yes, that's been a prevalent problem all this time. But the problem is that the U.S. government, and let's call it the U.S., this is not America, okay? This is the United States of America, which, of America means the continent, North America. I know they should have put it United States of North America, but they didn't. It's the United States of America. But to go into this, the U.S. government has villainized the Mexican people for years as being illegal immigrants or illegal aliens or undocumented workers. But a lot of those people are not from Mexico. A lot of those people are from Central America, and some of them even from as far as South America, coming to the U.S. because why? Because of the fallacy and the illusion, what they call the American dream. You know, oh, well, I can make tons more money in America than I can over here. And a lot of them, if you look at some things that have been going on, a lot of them have been dying out there in the desert, you know, just to, you know, provide for their own families. And that's what they're doing, trying to provide. And say, well, they're transversing on their answers to that. There are some people who do that. Yes, we went back and forth without any borders, but we never migrated. And that's the one thing that we did. How can I put it? We did travel to other places. There were summer camps and there were winter camps. And animals migrate because of the fact is that has to do with reproduction, has to do with other things in biology that can probably be properly explained by a scientific expert other than myself. I'm not really scientific, but the thing is with natives and like that, we didn't migrate. We didn't, you know, go from north to south and all this other stuff. We emigrated, and emigration is a different thing. And to emigrate, basically, is just to travel within the, you know, the same area or to go out of an area. So when we did things, it was not just, you know, to follow the food, but it was also ceremonial. It was also had to do with political. So there were aspects that are more prevalent than what's being said on the surface of some of these videos of this young man. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. Also, too, that you got to remember these countries do not acknowledge sovereignty. And what I mean by sovereignty is this, that all indigenous nations of this continent are really sovereign nations. They're their own independent governments. And unless you are acknowledged by these governments, like Canada, the United States, Mexico, then they're going to trample on your sovereign rights, basically your natural rights as sovereign people, and do whatever they please. And you can even see here in the U.S. that a lot of federal native nations kind of look down upon, you know, non-federal recognized nations. But that's just the nature of how things are when, you know, you're part of a Eurocentric, you know, government. And when you got that patrilineal ideology running through your head, of course it's going to give you that, you know, superiority complex. But nobody's superior to anybody else. We need to start thinking matrilineally, and we need to have a balance. So we really need to have a recognition of all native nations, whether it be in Canada, whether it be in the U.S., whether it be in Mexico, whether it be in, you know, South America's countries down there. There's just numerous ones to mention. But that's what we need to do. So the whole thing, it's really, you know, it's just a way of them to basically control the whole concept of, you know, we got rid of the matrilineal ideology, and so out of sight, out of mind. But anyways, also to our identities is, I think, another one I would put on here. Oh, indoctrination. Yeah, indoctrination. And that's the thing like that. When you come over here to the United States, they try to indoctrinate you into their social order. And that's what's been happening. It's not really assimilation, it's indoctrination. And that's what education is also doing. It's trying to indoctrinate your children. Going and doing things for, become U.S. citizens. That's an indoctrination. When you sign up to come in this country, that's an indoctrination. It's all about, trying to make you part of the society at large. And that's, again, that's just the nature of the beast. Now, it was brought up about laws and how, the laws affect our people and how they're taking lands. Back in the day, yes, the U.S. government made laws or acts to take lands from Native American people. Nowadays, they don't need laws to take lands for Native people. They just need private enterprise to take those lands. Like Peabody coal that's mined over there in the Navajo Nation. They didn't get that through stealing it. They got that because they offered the Navajo Nation money for them to have that contract, and now they're mining for uranium, and they're poisoning the water. So all that did was to backfire on a people that were trying to help themselves financially because of the society that we live in, which is basically a monetary, consumeristic society. So, the laws are set by not white man. They're set by religion. Sorry to say. Every law, look at your laws. The judges came from biblical, reference. Laws are ecclesiastical. You've heard of God's law. That's the thing. These are ecclesiastical or canon laws. These are laws that were set by the church, that were brought over to this country, that were used as a basically a template for what's going on now. And a lot of these laws are still based upon ecclesiastical law. Look at the ban on gay marriage. Look at what marriage means, and like that. Separation of church and state. All this stuff. Those are ecclesiastical laws, and those are just leftovers from the British colonial times. And just to let y'all know too, like that, America's still a British colony. Don't let them fool you. We're still a British colony. So this whole country is not an independent country. It's a corporation, and it's run as a corporation. So look it up. It's still still part of the British colonies. We're not independent. We think we are, but we're not. And there's information out there to justify what I'm saying. But anyways, and that's the thing with laws. I mean, any law is going to go against the people. But now these laws are going against their own people, and they're starting now to treat their own people like we did the indigenous peoples back then. We have to now show identity, who we are, like that when we enter the country from other countries. Can't be just, you go to, the border in Canada and come back and say, yeah, I'm an American citizen. Okay, you're an American citizen. Well, show us your passport, show us your ID. We need to see, forms of identification. Before, you can just go over there. But yet, there's no border wall over in Canada. And I think, that we need the border wall over there because, we got to keep those Canadians from taking our comedy jobs. I'm just kidding. It's just a little bit of humor. I'm not saying that there should be no type of walls and no type of borders. I'm totally against that. But anyways, that's what law is. But we do have a counteract to that law, and it's called the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And that's a certain thing that we have to help us assert our rights. That asserts our right to education, to teaching our kids. That asserts our rights to being a sovereign people, to identify ourselves as, native nations. And this was finally signed by the president himself, I think either last year or the year before. I think it was the year before. But anyways, I just wish that it would be made more into international laws where it affected the United States. But we do have this, and it's a very good reference for us to use, so that way we can go ahead and do what's necessary to help our people. So those are some points, and also too, I wanted to say that there was talk too that there's with the declaration about education, that there's no native schools, there's no languages being taught in public schools. That's totally untrue as well. There are native languages being taught in BIA schools. Those are public-run schools that are funded by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is the federal agency, same as Department of Education, all that other great stuff. And Navajo is being taught down in Navajo Nation, their public schools. In Minnesota, they're teaching Ojibwe in the public schools that AIM started. There's immersion schools in Canada that I know of. So to say that there's no native languages being taught is totally incorrect, and it's misinformation being presented. Also, too, there are native schools, like I said, because those are BIA-run schools. Those are native schools. So we do have our own schools. So to touch on that and to touch on all these things, I just wanted to, express that I have nothing against this individual, but we need to be aware of where we're getting our information from. We need to do more research, and we really need to not be angry about a lot of things, because a lot of things are out of our control, and we have no control over anything but our own, universe, more or less, what happens with us. We need to stay positive. We need to be in balance. We need to be matrilineal. And when we're doing those things, then we can create a better world for us, because we are the creators. We create our own way of life, whether it be good or bad. So we just need to really think on things, go to our traditional elders, learn what we can. Nothing's ever lost to us. So I hope that y'all find some enlightenment from this video, and I hope that y'all take something from this. And all I have to say is thank you for watching. May Yosin bless all y'all, and I hope that all y'all have a great day and a great year. Okay? Alright, bye for now.